Have you ever wondered what it might be like to have like a dramatic transformation in your life? I mean, a lot of us have watched people spiral downward. You know, we've got friends, family, people we've known who we've just kind of watched them drive off a cliff with their life, maybe, or maybe we've done that personally, but the idea of watching somebody do the exact opposite, wow, I get to introduce you to somebody like that today. This is Stephanie, and she's had a dramatic transformation, and we get to hear all about it. My name is Gabe Kolstad. I'm with Westside Community Church, and this is the Midweek Motivation episode of the Westside podcast, and I cannot wait for you to meet and learn from Stephanie Tripp. Welcome, Stephanie.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah, glad to be here.
Yeah, you've had such a dramatic turnaround in your life, and, you know, I think everyone who knows you is like, wow, what is going on? Yeah.
Yeah, they just can't believe it.
Yeah. So to unpack a little bit of that for us, what's your story? Maybe in a nutshell, if you could do it that quick.
Let me see if I can do it in a nutshell. I grew up at home with two alcoholic parents.
Okay.
And until we were 12, my mom was very active in our school system, and she was very there for us, my sister and I. She's about 2.5 years younger. And once I hit the age of 12 was when my mom ended up going back to work.
Okay.
And my sister and I were kind of on our own to fend for ourselves throughout the day. And,
Okay.
we were expected, you know, to have the house clean, even though we didn't know how to do that because we were not shown that.
Yeah. 12 years old, have the house clean.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, she was 10, I was 12. And
everybody has different definitions of clean, right?
yeah, right. Ours was a lot different than my mom's. So there was a lot of fighting at home, and it was just really not a very safe or loving home environment for us. So to escape that, once I hit the age of 15, I was off to the races. I was, you know, ready to just go out party, and started blackout drinking. And
wow, when you were 15?
yeah, I was 15.
Wow.
And it was...
And was that something that then, like, because your mom was working a lot and, you know, you were sort of more or less on your own, nobody was really there to stop you?
Well, no, yes and no.
Okay.
My dad, he was gone a lot. He was barely ever home. He did trucking, and so he drove truck. But my mom thought it would be safer if we drank at home versus going out.
Oh, wow.
So actually, it was a lot of times at my house where we would have the parties, and that's when I got involved in, you know, the sex and the drugs and yeah, the drinking. And it got really, really bad. I was drinking and driving and just, spiraling downhill, just to kind of try to fill the void of not having family around, not having my parents around. And I didn't really know how to live, you know, so I just turned to what I felt was good at the time and was fun, and ended up ruining my life, or so I thought.
Okay. So backing up just a little bit, was your family was there a faith background?
We believed in God. We didn't attend church often. When we did, it was mainly my sister and I would attend with my grandparents.
Okay.
And they went to, it was in Hillsborough, the old Scotch church out there, and the Presbyterian church. And so we would go out there with them, and we enjoyed it. And my dad, you know, he was a believer, and so was my mom. We prayed at dinner time, but that was pretty much the extent of our faith.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay.
So not super active, and involved at that time.
Yeah. So through high school, I mean, how did you function doing those things in your sophomore, junior, senior year, et cetera?
Yeah. Thankfully, I was really book smart. So I was able to, without much work, you know, just kind of breeze by and get my A's and B's. And my friends couldn't believe it. They're like, this is BS. I'm at school every day working so hard, and you're out getting drunk and getting A's. Like,
wow.
So I had a really easy time, I feel like, as far as getting through school, with keeping up with the drinking. And I didn't get hangovers like my friends did. So I could outdrink them and drink all night, and then go to school, and then go to work after school and do it all over again. So that's when I realized that there was something different between me and my friends and the way of the drinking world goes. By the time I was 17, My dad and mom got divorced.
Okay.
Finally, a long time coming. My sister and I always talk about how we wish they would have done that previously, but
Well, that's an interesting thing to say. So you say that because why?
yeah, their relationship was very, very toxic. The only time we saw mom and dad interact was really when they were fighting. Otherwise, they just wouldn't talk to each other at all. So, and my dad absolutely loved my mom. He adored her. And she just did not give him the love he deserved. And so we grew up seeing that relationship and building our relationships from that. And so every romantic relationship I've had since, I've treated my partner very terribly. And I'm not a very affectionate person or compassionate. And I never really understood why until the last 5-6 years. And I'm like, oh, well, that was what was modeled to me.
Okay.
So once
Makes
they
sense.
divorced, I was like, whew, okay, well, now, things will be different. So dad was still drinking and drinking very heavily. Mom, still doing the same thing too. And so I kept doing the same thing. By the time I turned 18, dad ended up getting a couple DUIs. And it was time for him to, try to get sober. So he went to a couple sober, what are they called? the sober living areas or rehab centers. And he just couldn't quit. So we went to AA to support him. That was my first experience with Alcoholics Anonymous. And I could relate to, I was 18, 19 and relating to these guys who were 60, 70 years old and listening. And I was like, nope, there's no way I'm an alcoholic. I'm only 19 years old.
Okay.
But
so
I
you're
feel
sitting
like
in these
knew.
meetings or sitting in these rooms and kind of hearing all that, but not saying that applies to me too. Really.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like I could resonate. Like I was like, oh, that's happened to me. No, there's no way I'm an alcoholic. I'm only 19.
Yeah.
So I think deep down I knew, but I just knew I wasn't ready to give it up. So, dad ended up getting sober almost 12 years ago now.
Okay.
So, and that was God. And that's, he gives God full, gives him all the credit for that one. He just finally asked him to take it away and he took the obsession away. So Jocelyn, it was incredible. Had my daughter Jocelyn at 21 years old.
Okay.
And I thought that, maybe becoming a parent, I'd, be able to be a little more responsible. And that ended up not being the case and backfiring. I ended up in the hospital. I had a postpartum depression and ended up being hospitalized for a good couple weeks there. Almost gave up Jocelyn, almost gave her up for adoption. I just really was in a dark place and didn't think that I was going to be able to come back out and to be a parent. So thankfully my dad stepped in and said, no, you don't want to do that. We'll do it together.
And that's amazing.
Yeah, thank God. For that. So now she's 13.
Okay. So she's pretty much only ever known grandpa as sober.
Oh yeah.
And responsible.
It's incredible. Yeah. It's really cool. She just hears some of the stories and she's like, granddad did that?
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, man. I'm like, not anymore.
Yeah, that's good. Okay. So then what brought you to the breaking point, so to speak?
Yeah. So breaking point. Well, going up to, let's see, it's probably 2014, 2015, I was getting more and more blackout drunk. I was just, it was more often. The weekends would come where Jocelyn would go to her dad's. And so I would be excited. I'd be like, okay, I'm ready to go to the bar, and realize that, I just was getting really out of hand. And the couple times, I'd wake up in my car somewhere I didn't know. And like, how did I get here? So at that point I was realizing, okay, I got to start, figuring it out. So I started, counting my drinks, and I'll only have 2 if I go out. Well, that's not possible for an alcoholic. So, but what really did it was April 8th of 2019. I wish it was 2016, 2019. I woke up and I had a friend ask me if I had gone out the night before, and like, oh, where did you go last night once you got home? And I said, I didn't go anywhere. And they were like, yeah, check out this video. So we had a camera outside of our house or apartment and took a look. And sure enough, I had gotten in that car and drove and came back. And I had no recollection of it.
Goodness.
So that's what woke me up. That's what made me get on my knees. That morning I got on my knees, and I, for the first time, did step one and just gave my life and told God, take this obsession away before I kill myself, before I kill someone else, or before Jocelyn gets taken away or I end up in prison. By the grace of God, I don't know how none of that has already happened, but God had a purpose for me. And that's what my dad had said over and over was, I don't know how, you're out of jail. I don't know how, you haven't died yet. But God has a purpose. And it took me a long time to believe that, but here we are. So,
wow.
Yeah.
So when you decided that, then, I mean, that's a big decision. And, as we all know, like when you make a decision like that, it's one thing to make the decision. It's another thing to manage that decision.
Yeah.
How did you manage that decision?
Well, I, first let my family know that, hey, this is, I'm done. I got to give it up. And of course they took it with a grain of salt because I'd said that before.
Okay.
So, but they were supportive, they were happy to hear that. And then I had already known about the program of Alcoholics Anonymous. So I looked up some meetings, got involved, just showed up and would just show up, the very beginning of the meeting. So I didn't have to talk to anybody and I'd leave right after the prayer. I was like, see ya. Cause I was terrified. I didn't want to find a sponsor. I didn't want to actually work the program. I just thought if I went to meetings, that'd be, enough. So I did that for about 5 months or so until I saw Celebrate Recovery on a growth group catalog at Westside.
Okay.
And I'd been coming to Westside since 2011, off and on, and was baptized in 2012. And like you said in the message, when you dedicate your life and how you think things are just going to fall into place.
Take my pain away.
Yep, that's what I thought. I thought magic was going to happen. And so, that lasted all of a couple months and went back. So I must have been fall when the growth group catalog came out of 2019. And I was like, Celebrate Recovery. And I was reading about it. I totally thought it was an AA meeting. And so I was like, I'm going to sign up. And I showed up with my AA book and walked in and they were worshiping. And I'm like, what is happening? I was a little bit intimidated and scared, but I stayed. And now that's like my favorite part is worship. Yeah. And I realized sitting in that meeting and then staying for the small group or the breakout group with the women after, which at that point I had not had any meetings with just women before, because I've had a rough relationships with women growing up. My mom and the friends and wasn't good to them. So I was really scared of making friends with women. So I stayed for that. And Julia Jordan, the ministry leader at the time, she just really made me feel so comfortable and so safe, along with a few other women there who are still there and some are not. But it was just a very safe environment. And I was like, oh. And then I heard their stories and they weren't, I don't think, there was only one other person there for alcohol. And I was like, oh, okay. So there's more to this thing. I can address other, hurts, habits, hangups. And actually only 1 in 3 people I found out over the last, I just found this out like a few months ago, go for drugs and alcohol. Yeah. And I was like, wow. Only 1 in 3.
So there's a lot of things in life that kind of get us all twisted.
So many things in life. And now I'm working on a lot all at once, but trying to really only focus on one issue at a time.
Okay. Smart.
But yeah, so that's, got involved to Celebrate Recovery, fell in love with that. But still was doing the same, showing up very, right on time, leaving as soon as small group was done. And after about 2 years, I was doing it myself, trying to work the program myself because I was terrified of step 4 and making that fearless moral inventory.
Okay. Like really going through it.
So scared. So I had put off getting a sponsor. I thought I could do it myself. And I was Googling like, how do you do step 4? And they're like, get a sponsor. I'm like, no.
Besides that.
Yeah. So I had a meeting and it just happened to be, which I can share this because we're all leaders, but Julia, myself, and Drea. And I had cried to them. And I said, I don't have a sponsor and I haven't worked the steps and I don't know how to do this or who to ask. And Andrea started crying. And so she said, you know what? I've never sponsored before, but I'd be willing to be your sponsor. And now we have a super strong relationship. She brought me through the steps of AA. I'm currently working through the Celebrate Recovery steps, but she was involved in AA also. So we walked those steps together and I made it through the inventory and it was so freeing. I was so scared of something that for 2 years it held me back because I was so scared. And once I was able to go through that process, it was like my heart was able just to open up to so much more. And then just having God and Andrea there with me and just hearing all of it, and getting all of that off my chest was just really empowering and made me feel so much stronger. And then the amends and just saying sorry and actually meaning it and writing out like what I'm sorry for and to who, and having people even from high school who I never thought ever would forgive me, say, I forgive you. And I see how hard you're working on yourself. It's just, it brought me to tears. So that was
that's
amazing.
Scary stuff. And it's interesting to hear you talk about how you took those scary steps and to your surprise, it didn't repel people. It actually brought people closer to you.
Yeah.
Because I think that's the biggest fear that most people have about coming clean or opening up the curtain of their life is like, oh, people are going to reject me.
Oh yeah. 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. You just feel like everybody's nobody is going to accept you for who you truly are.
Yeah.
And that's why, so many of us put on masks for so long because we don't want people to know.
But you found the exact opposite.
I found the exact opposite. And I have such a strong support system now within, not only Celebrate Recovery, but through Westside and through growth groups. And, I've never had, like, when I'm sick, I've had people like, do you need me to bring you stuff? I'm like, whoa, calm down. It's okay. I'm not dying. And when Jocelyn, she just went through a really huge mental breakdown. And with her consent, she allowed me to share today. She attempted suicide just a couple months ago.
Oh, wow.
At 13 years old.
Okay.
Was going through a really depressive time. And her boyfriend had dumped her as her first serious boyfriend. And she just thought that was her only way out. So to get that phone call, I was terrified and it was a lot of tears. I couldn't drive. I was just a mess. And I had my sponsor. I called Drea. I called her. She prayed. She was able to talk me back down and just remind me that this is part of God's plan. He's got a purpose for this. There's a reason behind it. And Jocelyn now, actually, even within a few days after it happened, said, you know what, Mom, God has a plan for why this happened. And I think it's to help other teenagers going through something like this, because this isn't the way. And I think he needed to show me that.
Oh, wow. So
to hear that come out of my 13-year-old's mouth was just incredible. So, he's been taking, that's recent pain and just putting it more into purpose and to action. So, and then, even more recently, my mom gave me permission to share her story. A couple weeks ago, she lost her job.
Okay.
And she lives with us. She pays a big majority of our bills as far as rent and utilities, groceries. So we were scared, and finances is one thing that I have not been able to give over to God. And I've been struggling with for years, and had finally started with the Change Your World, was like, yes, I'm going to give. I'm going to repeatedly give and eventually make it my way to tithing, but I'm going to give. And so I've been doing that. And so I was really nervous and scared when she lost her job. And I was like, okay, God, I hear you. You're telling me I need to surrender my finances to you. and she now starts a new job tomorrow.
Oh, fantastic.
Yes, so that's exciting. And within that, she realized that she has a drinking problem, and she's now getting the help through Alcoholics Anonymous. And
Excellent.
Just within 3 weeks, we're already seeing, the light come back in her eyes. She's coming to church. We watch church online, and she's like, he's talking to me today. This is like a meeting. I'm like, I know. So
awesome.
that's been, it's just like coming around over and over with the blessings through all of this pain and all of this destruction that happened in my life. It's been incredible.
Yeah, it sounds like it. We wish that it was that magic wand, you believe in Jesus as your leader and forgiver, and all of a sudden it's like perfection.
Rainbows and butterflies.
No more trouble. But it doesn't work like that. We do still have struggles. We do still have tragedy. We do still have regret. We have all of those things. How would you describe the difference now? Because, so the difference is not you have no more problems.
Yeah, exactly.
How do you describe the difference?
So the difference is not that I don't have more problems, because I do. This year alone, those have been two of my hardest problems of my life since I've gotten sober, and I didn't even feel like picking up a drink once. I feel like the difference is community, that I have support, that I fully have trust in God now, where before I feel like I kept trying to take that control back. Mm-hmm. But I've seen what he does with the tragedies and with the pain. So all the struggles and all the fires and everything he's putting me through now, I know that he's going to bring me through it, because he's done that over and over and over. And if he can do it for me, he can do it for you. Yeah. It's
so good.
Yeah. Incredible.
Well, and we talked on Sunday about the sharing choice, about how God gives us the ability to, once we've received some measure of healing in our own journey, and he gives us the ability then to share our healing journey with somebody else.
Yes.
Which, if you don't know, Stephanie's doing that very actively as the co-director of our Celebrate Recovery program here at Westside. And she gets to do this constantly, just pouring out to other people in from the healing, from the growth, from God's work in your life. And we're really proud of you, Stephanie.
Yeah, it's been incredible. And I'm actually teaching this week. So if you haven't come to Celebrate Recovery before,
all right,
you should show up Thursday night, 7 o'clock.
Yeah.
And we're going to be talking about moral, and starting again to talk about the inventory. And that's part of why I wanted to teach this one, because that was a scary step for me.
Yeah.
So come.
Okay. So if you could share some of the things you've learned, one or two of the things that you've learned from your journey, with maybe somebody who's out there going, I'm at the bottom, what would you say?
I would say reach out for help. Ask for help. It seems scary. And it is scary at first, but there is resources out there to help you, whether you're struggling with a drug or alcohol, or gambling, or food, or trust relationship issues, domestic violence. There's so much help and resources out there. You just need to ask for it. So I know it's scary, but step one for me was turning my life over to God, saying, okay, I have a problem. So stop denying whatever you're going through it. Just accept that, but then ask for help. So that would be my first two pieces of advice right there.
How about for somebody who literally, we always joke around like asking for a friend, but what if somebody really is like, hey, I have a friend and I'm trying to figure out, how do I help them? They're, they've gone down this downward spiral. What would be your advice for somebody like that?
Yeah, that's a great question. I would recommend offering to go with them to get the help, to the resources. Whether it's like AA or Celebrate Recovery, just offer to go with them, or even just take them there and be a support for them to start. Because you can't enable them, or you can't do their recovery for them. But if you see that they are hurting and they're really struggling, just offer the resources that you know of, and say, I'm willing to walk this journey with you and help you get the help that you need.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Thanks so much for sharing today.
Oh, of course. Thank you.
And thank you for listening and watching, and just encourage you for a couple of things. One is, we always say this, would you subscribe and share? Because we want to get the positive messages, this encouragement out to as many people as possible.
Yes, share.
Subscribe, share. And then secondly, stop by a Westside service. We would love to see you some weekend. You can do that in two ways. One would be online, and you can find out all you need to know at westsidecommunitychurch.com. And a second way would be literally pop by in person at our campus in the Portland, Oregon area on a Sunday. We would love to see you there, and we hope you have an awesome week.